Beyond VW and Mitsubishi, today on The World. I'm Carol Hills. Volkswagen and Mitsubishi are both paying the price for cheating on emissions tests, and VW now promises to buy back or fix almost 500,000 polluting vehicles. But some argue it's not just the cars that need fixing.
What's actually broken, arguably, is the testing system itself.
Also, U.S. weapon sales to Saudi Arabia are up, but this reporter says the Saudis use the weapons indiscriminately.
When you're going at a smaller target, you shouldn't be dropping a 2,000-pound bomb.
Plus, saying goodbye to Prince. This super fan in London says he was a once-in-a-generation musician.
I would say in hundreds of years, we will be talking about Prince. We will be talking about this modern-day Mozart.
Those stories ahead on The World. We have a lot to get to today, including the passing of the musician Prince. We'll be hearing from one of his superfans in London later in the show, but we'll start off with our environment team. Remember back in December, there was that rare sense of optimism coming out of the Paris climate talks? Even some of the most pessimistic activists seem to feel it could be a turning point. Well, now it's time for countries to step up and actually commit themselves to the deal. We're going to hear about that from the World's environment editor Peter Thompson in just a few minutes. But first, there's news for all the Volkswagen owners here in the U.S. driving around with diesel engines the company rigged to cheat emissions tests. VW reached a deal today with U.S. regulators to either buy back or fix 500,000 affected cars. The deal could help calm the waters around VW, but as the World's Carolyn Beeler reports, the company's chicanery is just the tip of the iceberg in the U.S. and elsewhere.
Kelley Blue Book analyst Rebecca Lindelin hazarded a guess today at the message being sent by regulators in this decision.
Don't mess with the government.
Compensation for car owners from VW is expected to reach more than $1 billion. And that doesn't include fees for environmental cleanup and money to promote green automotive technology that haven't yet been set.
This is a pretty substantial financial impact for Volkswagen. So I think if this is the new levels that these fines hold, then I think it could provide a significant deterrent to manufacturers going forward.
This VW ruling may instill fear of sky-high after-the-fact penalties for car manufacturers who cheat. But what it doesn't change is how easy it can be for them to game the system in the first place.
What's actually broken, arguably, is the testing system itself.
The VW scandal is about emissions, but Lindelin says when it comes to gas mileage, there are lots of ways to make cars perform better in the lab than they will in the real world.
So you can do things like overinflate the tires, and then that will give you a better fuel economy result.
She says that happens in the U.S., and it's what Mitsubishi got in trouble for this week in Japan.
You can also do things like seal up the doors and windows with tape, which is also going to make the car more aerodynamic and it give you better fuel economy.
The company Emissions Analytics does real-world testing for cars and compares their results to what automakers advertise. Company CEO Nick Molden says the difference for European cars is striking.
Miles per gallon on average is 22% worse than the sticker. Nitrogen oxide emissions are 4 times the official level on European cars, and that's based on over 750 different makes and models.
Molden says that's partly because of how testing is done in Europe. Car companies there can hire external labs to conduct their emissions testing or do it themselves with regulators watching. Testing is overseen by one country, and once a car is okayed, it's cleared to be sold continent-wide. Greg Archer with the Brussels-based sustainable development nonprofit Transport and Environment sees this system as ripe for abuse.
In Europe, the manufacturers go shopping to choose which authority will approve their vehicles. If they don't like the work that they're doing, then the manufacturer takes its business to another country. This is endemic within the industry.
Emissions tester Nick Molden sees the relationship a bit differently and more kindly. He says that in a competitive market, car companies are understandably looking for the best gas mileage and emissions ratings they can get. So they work with testing houses that know the loopholes.
This is all perfectly legal, and it's a product of regulations that have lots of holes in them.
In the United States, Molden says the system works a lot better, and emissions and gas mileage are generally closer to what's advertised. Car companies test their own vehicles, but the EPA audits that data and does some of its own testing. Importantly, Molden says they also crack down on companies that break the rules.